Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the AT&T Byron Nelson. These are my money picks. I will go through and give you my 15 favorite DFS picks, and then at the end, I will also give you my 3 favorite betting picks. If I remember, I will also give you some thoughts on one and done. And I thank you for stopping by. Give me about 30 to 40 minutes. I will go through all the analysis on each player that I'm picking, kind of give you the whys. And okay, let's do this. All right, first thing I need to cover, as it is the last day that I will be taking entries, is the contest I'm giving away, the PGA Championship, of course. And this is for the $3 million fantasy golf large multi-million maker. And what I am doing is right now, I'm going to go ahead and randomly pick 10 winners. I'll put you randomly in this wheel, spin it, and whoever comes up is going to get $20 sent over to them to go ahead and get in the million maker or do what you want with it. And of course, all you need to do is tell me who you think is going to win the PGA Championship. You got to like this video, and you also got to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Of course, if you are a subscriber, just tell me who you think is going to win if you've not done so already. And if I somehow get 40 more subscribers, I will reach 500. But that's going to have to happen by late tonight or tomorrow morning before I, of course, start doing this. And if I do, I'm going to go ahead and pick 20 winners. So again, if you've been watching the content and you have not signed up for YouTube yet, or just been a little hesitant on hitting the subscribe button, please do so and double your odds of actually winning a free entry into the Millie Maker. Okay. First thing I'm going to cover, I mentioned this in the preview show, that I like playing Texas guys when they're in Texas. It seems to pay off a lot of times. I'm not saying everyone I pick is going to be have some affiliation, but I wanted to just give you guys a list, and a lot of these guys you probably already know, maybe some you don't, that either live there at one time, or of course played college golf there, whatever it is. They have familiarity and are used to playing in the winds and these kind of courses. I also mentioned that Australians and South Africans also do well, typically on the Texas swing. And so the first guy is Will Zalatoris. Of course, he moved there, lived there for a bit. I know also went to high school, played high school golf there. So definitely has ties. You got Bryson DeChambeau, of course, who lives, as I mentioned, in the preview show, 15 miles away from the course. Played golf, I believe, at SMU. And so very familiar. I'm not sure how much he's played actually TPC Craig Ranch, but I know that he's played a lot of golf in that area, of course. You got Ryan Palmer, well-known, University of Texas, I believe, lives in the area forever. Same with Scotty Scheffler, University of Texas. Big Texas fan, still lives there. You got Cameron Champ, who moved there, played for Texas A&M. You got Jordan Spieth, of course, huge University of Texas guy, still lives there. Sebastian Munoz and Carlos Ortiz both went to college there for North Texas, played quite a bit of golf there. You got Jonathan Vegas, who also, of course, played for the University of Texas. I mentioned Sun King on my preview show, lives there now, and also is a member at TPC Craig Ranch, so for sure we know he's played a lot of rounds there. Should have the familiarity with the course and remember that name because I'll be mentioning him on the betting side. And then some of the other guys that have Texas ties, live there, played college. I just kind of go through the list. You got Kramer Hickok. Jason Day actually lived there for a bit. He's lived in a couple different areas. Of course, lives in Ohio now. But, I threw him on the list, who he is in this event. Sergio Garcia, who splits time between a couple residencies, but his U.S. residence is in Texas, I believe Austin. You got Harry Higgs, Bo Hosler, Tom Hoagie, Robert Castro, and J.J. Henry is the last guy. Someone that you're probably not too concerned. But anyways, it just gives you an idea of all the guys, and there's probably a couple that I'm missing. But from everything that I knew past and could find, that's a good list. And of course, all these guys are playing this event. And then secondly, I mentioned in the preview show the comp courses. I'm looking at a lot of the TPC courses. Again, I think this is going to be a shootout. I actually included John Deere, which is crazy. I look back in that Michael Kim actually shot 27 under there. And I think the next guy was like 19 under. So I think that was in 2018. Anyways, like Shriners, that's a pure, it's a putting contest, it's a shootout. I believe that's going to be a bit what we have here. We're going to also look at past courses at the AT&T Byron Nelson, specifically Trinity Forest. I think is a good comp course. You got the TPC Scottsdale where they play the Waste Management. Again, could get pretty high scores there. And then just from pure playing in Texas, TPC San Antonio is probably a little tougher track, but it is a TPC course. It is in Texas. So we can look at the Valero. And then lastly, the Vivid Houston Open. You've got Memorial Park where they played last year, or this recent event where you had Carlos Ortiz win. But you also have CC of Houston where they played there quite a long time. Is a tough track, but maybe a little tougher than what this is going to be. But anyways, just to give you some ideas of the courses when I go through the guys, we'll look through some of these tournaments, see how they did, just as another reference point, because we don't have any course history at TPC Crag Ranch is a bit why I'm also doing this. And I do this every time because I like to look at all possible variables when we're trying to make our picks. Okay, let me jump into the analysis and talk about some of the guys I'm looking at. Okay, so I've jumped over into Fantasy National Golf. This is where I do a lot of my research and analysis. And of course, if you've been with me for previous shows, you'll be pretty used to looking at what I'm looking. I went through and created my own kind of smaller model here you'll see for the AT&T Byron Nelson. It's the last 12 rounds we're going to be looking at. I don't have any filters on. I kind of want to just look at their past 12 rounds in 3 tournaments to see how they've been doing. And so what you're going to see here from information, of course, is the player, their cost, and of course, Dustin Johnson withdrew from this tournament, cited that he had some knee soreness or issues. And I think that's all BS. DJ has actually pulled out of now 3 tournaments, actually 4. He pulled out of the Valero. He pulled out of AT&T Pebble Beach. That was a lot because he couldn't play with his father-in-law. He also pulled out of the CJ Cup, but that was due to a positive test. But anyways, just seems to kind of be the trend right now for him. And, whatever. I wasn't going to be playing him anyways. But to get back on task, we have a few guys at 11,000. So you can see their pricing. You can see right now projected ownership. That is as of Tuesday around 1 o'clock Eastern. And here's the key areas that I'm looking at for this side. Of course, approach is the main, driving distance, putting, that proximity to 75 to 100 due to some of the shorter holes, and the par 5 with us understanding that there's going to be 4 short par 4s. So see how they do from stroke gain from that. The big one is this birdie chart. This is showing over their last 12 rounds how they've been doing each round from a birdie perspective. Then, of course, we can see their recent results and tournament history over here that we'll also use. And then I'll jump in on each of these guys and we can learn a little more information. Okay, that gives you an understanding of what we're doing, what we're looking at. And to start off, as I mentioned, we had 3 guys in the 11,000 range. You can remove DJ now. So really it became, again, between DeChambeau and Rahm, much like we just saw at Wells Fargo. And, of course, a lot of the reason why I am going with DeChambeau. And you can see their ownership is pretty similar. It's nothing to do with Rahm missing the cut. A little bit due to his, just his attitude at times. And I feel like, and you could kind of use this narrative. I don't feel DeChambeau, but I felt like with DJ, Rahm, and maybe, some of the other guys could just literally, Hideki Matsuyama, are just using this tournament as a pure practice warm-up. I've got Koepka picked, but he is like the number 1 guy that will go into something like this and use it as just a pure practice, working on different, not really even caring if they make the cut or not. I feel that way. There's going to be certain guys that have never had a win on the PGA Tour are going to treat this tournament a lot different. Guys that aren't going to even be making the, didn't qualify for the PGA Championship. So there's that aspect. But really it's just Rahm, when he gets a little piffed, I just watch his game go sideways so many times. But really the ultimate reason why out of these 2 is this putting rank. And his putter's just been really off for quite a while. And that's the main statistical reason why I'm going to DeChambeau. Of course, it's not hard to see from a birdie perspective. DeChambeau has been outperforming over the last 3 tournaments. Rahm, if you kind of match up their recent results, I don't think there's anything too crazy on that. And if you look at tournament history, you'll see these 2 cuts, but total different courses, total different game that DeChambeau is bringing to the table back in 2016, 2000. So I don't look at any of that. If we jump in and look at DeChambeau and we'll look at some of the events, and also if you can look at his putting splits, it's funny. It shows that he doesn't play that great in crazy wind. And again, it was Thursday, Friday looks good. Saturday, Sunday, the wind could blow. Bent is his least favorite putting surface, but it's not negative. And I'm not super concerned on that. All green and all the stroke gain categories over his past 117 events. That's actually pretty impressive. But if we start to look at some of the tournaments that I mentioned, we look at Shriners, which again, a scoring fest. You can bomb it there. He actually won there in 2018. As you can see, all better than top 10s except for this 36 way back. But so really good on that side. We look at Waste Management. And some of these guys we're going to be looking at aren't going to have all these tournaments. But we'll look at the ones that can. Not the best in the most recent. It looks like the approach was quite a bit off. And but previously to that, he's done well at TP Scottsdale, so I'm not too concerned. He's never played the Houston Open, so can't look at that. What about Valero? So only this is a while ago. I actually removed Valspar, but if you just look at Valero, back in 2007, he had a miscut and a miscut. So again, a little tighter track, but again, total different player than what he was then. We already looked at the AT&T. He had a couple. I don't know if he's ever played the Safeway. So he's played Safeway twice. That's at the Silverado Resort. That's also a California track. I do believe it was POA. So some similarities there. Or not, sorry, POA. But, well, let me look. I don't know if it's Bent or POA. It's POA. Okay. Pretty much all California courses typically have POA. Just can handle the weather there. But one that I did have was John Deere, as I mentioned. So back in 2017, he won that, did real well from a putting tee to green. So some things, like I said, but honestly, just ultimately, Texas guy, sleeping in his own bed. He can just go out and just bomb it here, really take advantage of his length, can drive a lot of the par fours. He can, he'll be hitting, I'm estimating pitch and wedge and 9-iron, 8-iron, and some of these par fives if they keep all the par fives at what they are stated on the official scorecard. So should be a huge advantage. It's going to come down to how he does on the approach and on the putting. But I think he'll want to win. I think he's going to have some people that are there, local ties, rooting him on, and he's going to want to have a good showing. I don't think he's going to use it hopefully as a pure practice round. Hopefully he doesn't bring out some different drivers and and try this and that. But yeah, out of those two, that's what I'm going with. Of course, Jordan Spieth. I think he'd be crazy not to go with Jordan. I think he's probably going to be super chalk, as you see here. 20% projected ownership. He's been just on a crazy upswing from a birdie streak and eagles. And, from a scoring perspective, Jordan can definitely do it. He can also throw in some bogeys. But he actually was one of the better players, too, on this kind of ranking that I'm looking at. So, second in the field on the par fives, the stroke gain, number one on approach. Driving distance, never been his strength, but I'm not concerned at all with that. When that, he's always had a good putter, but if that thing gets hot, it's ridiculous. And really good, almost like a, Justin Thomas in this range. He's ranked 33rd. I mean, you get a pitching wedge in his hands or a sand wedge, he can be very deadly. And if we go real quickly, just take a look. Bent is his best putting surface, so another reason why you would want to put another check mark. Of course, he just won the Valero, which is one of the comp courses I was looking at. We look at Shriners. He's only played there once, but that was a while ago in 2018. Nothing great there. The Waste Management recently, I think that was the first tournament. I could be wrong, because I think he actually showed up on the California swing, so I'll take that back. But it was one that we thought he could win and came close, had a fourth. He's had good history there in his past. We look at the Houston Open, missed the cut, but that was in 2020. AT&T Byron. I don't know what they even put this under. I'll have to just look under the tournament history on the other one. Let's look at the Safeway. Miscut in 20. And then, of course, the John Deere. He just loves that course. We kind of call it almost the Jordan Spieth. So if you haven't burned Jordan Spieth, the John Deere is going to be played this year. As you see, played in July timeframe. Save your one and done for that, because the guy just crushes it there. Let me see here what it shows. So if we look at the Byron Nelson, it's funny. I don't know what its title, and I have to figure that out. His tournament history, pretty solid, but all at different courses. So again, it's kind of hard to really make much of that. Matsuyama, just taking a pass. Just the win after the Masters. He's been in quarantine, flew back. Of course, spent time over in Japan to celebrate. There's going to be some rust factor. I don't care what, I'm sure he's practiced, but hasn't been in competitive golf now for quite a bit since the Masters. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on him. Berger, I think it could be fine here. You can see, it's done pretty well from a birdie perspective. Did pretty good at RBC. Of course, miscut at the Masters. But, viable. You can see his ownership is pretty high. But I just think, I don't know. In my mind, again, we haven't seen Berger in a while, except at the RBC. But, yeah, I guess it comes down to, how many guys you can play. And I guess Berger's just kind of a fade on that side. Now, Brooks, I have him in here because the guy, when he is, firing, which, again, we saw what happened at the Masters, probably tried to come back a little too soon. It's been a while. I don't know, a couple months, month and a half. So it was April, 7th. It is now, so over a month since he's got to let that heal. He still was okay. Just couldn't make any putts at the Masters. Didn't hit the ball terrible. But he ticks all the boxes here, as you can see. Almost top 10 in the main things I'm looking at. And if we go jump on Brooksy, he also, I know, likes to putt on bent grass. And if we just type in, so Shriners was miscut in 2019, but a second and a fourth, so pretty good showing there. Of course, he won the Waste Management a couple times. Actually, I think that was his first win on tour back in 2015, but of course won it here recently. Don't know if he's ever played in played in the Houston Open, had a fifth. That was pretty recent. That looks good. The Valero 2017 had a second, so that's a little while back. About the Safeway, that's a ways back, but good showing there, but I'm not really worried about that. And he's never played in the John Deere. And look at his tournament history again, different courses, but at the Byron, he's had a fourth and a second. So pretty good showing there. And ownership's down a little bit. We'll see how that all shakes out. I'll be shocked if he is over 10% owned when it's all said and done. So he might get some leverage if he does well. Now, again, with the narrative of we got to watch out for guys that are coming out to make this a practice round and working on things that they're not so much concerned about, working on different shots they want to do at Kiowa, at the PGA, more than concerned about what they do in this tournament. I'm not saying that's for sure going to be the case, but Brooks has done that in the past. Will Z, coming off a recent miscut. You can see he's actually played in this tournament. I don't know if that's under an amateur status or it must have been while he was on the Corn Ferry for 2018. But, of course, being local, and again, not played at this course that we know for sure. But, of course, he had that, great Masters showing, did well at the Players. The guy's been a top 20 machine since he's been out. He's had a little dip on the birdie side, but we know he can get hot. The putter is typically what is going to keep him back. Tee to green, elite. This one area shown, but again, I think he's going to have a little fire. This is a tournament that would really cement his status, right? So he needs a win. He can't get into the FedEx playoffs right now without a win on tour. And this is probably his best chance. The field is a little top heavy, and then that's about it. It gets pretty light. You'll see, as I'm sure if you start to build teams already, once we get past like the 9,000s, 8,500s, it gets, you're paying a premium for guys that are not worth it, maybe, if you want to say. Will Z's not going to have a ton of the courses I wanted to look at, but we'll go plug in some and just see what he's played in. So Shriners recently had a fifth. That's pretty good. And again, that's in a shootout. The Waste Management, he had a 17. So he's got a couple recently. Didn't play in the Houston. Didn't play at Valero. That's kind of shocking, actually. Safeway did not play, and then the John Deere has not played. Some of that's due to the shutdown, but that's also due to his recent kind of form to get on what do you want to call it, temporary status on the PGA. Matthew Fitzpatrick, again, another guy that could do, but when I think of a guy, can he go out and score? Yeah, he's a great putter. You can see he leads the field over the last 12 rounds from a putting perspective. The approach is a little bit shaky. Of course, he does not hit the ball very long, but again, could be decent. You might have a little differentiation if you play Fitzpatrick. Of course, really good recent results. Last time we saw him was RBC Heritage. He's never played in a Byron Nelson tournament, and nothing that again, this is just kind of comes down to preference. Again, I'm kind of sticking with the guys that can score, but also the Texas Tides. Of course, you got Scotty Scheffler, can get super hot. Does a lot of this very well. The putter, funny enough, I've always said, if you put him inside of 5 feet, I'm more nervous than if you put him, around 10 feet. For some odd reason, he can make the tougher, longer putts, it seems like, than he can the shorter. But can really take advantage of the par fives, good on approach. We already know he's pretty elite with driving distance. Pretty decent recent form. I was kind of shocked that he shot what he did at the Valero. And he's played at the Byron Nelson. And, I'd say so-so results. I would guess this is an amateur status here, 2014. And let's just go click on Scotty. Look at his putting split. So he's, below average on all these, but definitely can play in the win. And if we go look at the Shriners, miscut recently, so nothing there to write about. What about the Waste Management? He had a 7th recently. The Houston, he had a 32nd. The Valero we already looked at. He had a 54. We already looked at the Byron Nelson. What about Safeway? He's never played. And then the John Deere, he's never played. So, again, just kind of a little bit of personal preference on that one. Sam Burns, I'm just purely skipping. Even though he had a week off between his win, he could come out and do great here, but it's just kind of, okay. I think it's so draining on multiple fronts when you win your first tournament. So, he either could just keep in amazing form and away he goes. Leishman, you could kind of see this Jekyll and Hyde kind of results, but he's not making the birdies like he, could at one time. But you can see, he's green or yellow in all the key areas. So he's a viable play here. He's played the track before. I mentioned that back, when he was on the Nationwide or web.com in 2012, had a T8. But again, this just comes all down to, a little bit of preference. I'm going to go with, the Ryan Palmer or the Texas Ties at that price, could save $100. And this guy can get super crazy hot. You can see, his approach from 75 to 100 is his only Achilles heel that I'm looking at. Recent results have been, decent. Kind of, was on that crazy run here, but he seems to always show up in Texas. The Valspar was that great. And if you look at his results, kind of hit or miss. But I think he's in probably the best form that I remember Ryan Palmer in a long time. You can see his best putting surface is Bermuda. But again, can definitely handle himself in the wind. Looks like around the green is typically what will bite him, or, once in a while the putter can go either way. You can see when he's gaining strokes putting, he's very live. And if we just go look at some past on my comparable courses, pretty decent history at the Shriners. 34th recently. Waste Management, he had a 42nd. Best finish was a 2nd and a 5th. But again, the Houston Open, played it so long ago, it used to be called the Shell Houston Open, so nothing really to talk about there. The Valero, most recently at a 17th. I already looked at that. Or I looked at the Safeway. Missed Cup, but that was in 2015. And then John Deere recently at an 18th. So, again, you're going to notice the theme. I do, like I said, I've learned that when tournaments happen in Texas, you play the guys in Texas. Sergio Garcia, was on a really crazy pace there for a bit. Has played and won at this event back in 2016. Again, different course. But you can see his birdie average has been dipping a bit, but the guy can get really hot. Does everything very well. It's the putter, as we all know, can either be nuclear or it could be a disaster. So the hopes there is that. And then if we just want to go look at Sergio, and do some of the comparable stuff. Of course, putter is negative, but can handle himself in the wind. Elite ball striker, and you can see the putter is where the problems can lie. Let's see. Played Shriners. He had a 43rd recently. The Waste Management he did not play in. The Houston Open. That was a miscut. What about Valero? It's been a while, so really nothing there. We already looked at his. I don't know if he played. So his win at Sanderson Farms, but you know, I'm not gonna sit there and stretch, but it's a good showing. It's a tighter course, a little different beast. John Deere hasn't played. Okay, but again, a little personal preference. You know, you could look at Day, who I said had some history living in the Texas area. Also, I think he's had a win here, a second in 2007. So pretty good history. But when you say a win here, that means he had a win at the Byron Nelson, but not this course. And also his game, you can see a lot of reds, the putter, but nothing firing exceptionally well. Taking a pass on Siwoo. You know, he might not be a bad play at the PGA PDI course, but you know, nothing really you could say from a perspective of he's never played in the Byron Nelson, so he must be just using this again as a warm up before the PGA. Not saying he's not going to go out and try to win, but yeah, you know, he's a viable play. Harris English, yeah, I feel like he's coming back a little bit, but still just so sporadic. Definitely not Harris English golf, man. They got to make a couple birdies and go rattle off 4 bogeys. That was not typically, you know, but a lot of talk about Thomas Peters. You can see, you know, good on birdies, pretty good here except for the putter, but, you know, and even good recent results. But he's also, I don't want to say these are kiddie courses, but these last 2 are, you know, not difficult. But there is some wind, you know, you could correlate some things there. But the fields are quite a bit weaker than what he's going to be playing this week. So, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to pass on Mr. Peters. Lee Westwood could be an interesting play. I mean, you can see his projected ownership is so low right now. I think everybody, you know, the narrative, he's burned out. He's coming here again to get a little work. I mean, you can see when he was, you know. So who knows? I mean, that could be one that could really crack some DFS lineups if he has a good showing again. But, you know, you can see he kind of got burned out after those back-to-back runner-ups. There's no reason why he can't do well here. Of course, he's not as long. It's also not Bermuda. I want to go take a look just to refresh my brain on Lee Westwood. So, yeah, Poa is his favorite surface, which is funny enough. A lot of the damage he was doing was on Bermuda. I just want to go look. I don't know if he's played at one of these courses. So I just kind of piqued my interest. That's a long time ago. Houston Open. So he had a miscut at the Houston Open here not too long ago. The Valero has not played. About Safeway. That's 2014. And then John Deere now. And then lastly, let me just click because he's never played in a Byron Nelson. So yeah. Anyways, going Luke List, you know, not so much that I know he has any Texas ties, but the guy is in pretty good form. You know, he's always been elite tee to green. I think this course could suit his distance. You know, and of course he had a decent show with the putter, hence the T6. The price tag is a little hard. I don't know what that's like. What, a $1,500 uptick? I think he was like $6,900. But, you know, funny enough, he's played in the Byron in the past, had a couple cuts. So kind of shocked his ownership's at. But as I kind of mentioned, you can see a kind of a steep fall off. So right after you probably get, you know, past, you know, Scheffler, Burns, you still, you know, you got some good plays, but pretty expensive. You know, Aaron Wise, you're paying $8,300 for now. I think, you know, he's going to be chalky but I think he's just so sporadic, so volatile. Kuchar, I guess the narrative is that this course, you know, if the bombing doesn't take place, you can see pretty elite on the things that I'm looking for. Of course, the putter, which used to be a real strong suit, a little bit lower, a little bit better on the birdies as of recently. You can see the kind of Jekyll and Hyde cuts and starts. I just think of him as, you know, this RBC, RSM, you know, the shorter tracks. Schwartzel been playing better golf. You know, again, could be someone that could be viable, but doesn't get the birdies like I like. You know, I'm going to go ahead with, Killer Keith Mitchell. Hope that putter, you can see crazy from a birdie perspective. And again, like I said, that's what we're going to need here. He's had a T3 at a Byron Nelson tournament. That would have been, I believe, at Four Seasons. I'm going with the narrative also that he figured out that his putter was all screwed up and now it's better, and he's got a ton of confidence. Away he'll go. I just want to plug in some of the courses that we were talking about. So Shriners, never made a cut there. That's a little spooky. Now again, the cut at the Shriners is typically like you got to be 4 or 5 under. So you got to play really good golf to make the cut. He also missed a cut at the Waste Management recently. Kind of mentioned he really didn't have any form going into Wells Fargo. Just seeing anything else. I think everything I put in, except for John Deere, and that was a while back, he's missed the cut. So that, there you go. This is recent form, distance, and if he is putting, it can be very live. It's pretty much the same as Cameron Champ. I'm going with definitely Texas guy. This is a course that he could do well at. Now, funny enough, if you go back through Cameron Champ's wins, one I do believe was the Safeway. Let me just go confirm. I think it was Sanderson Farm and Safeway. So you got Safeway, which is one of the courses I'm looking at. It's a shorter track. And then you got Sanderson Farms, which is, a little longer. Over 7,400 yards. Bermuda par 72. So it's kind of funny. You can't really peg him. You can't say, well, he's a short course guy or he's a long course guy. Now, you would think that the longer tracks, you could take advantage of his driver. So, but you can see his birdie average has been up. A little better results here of recent. And, little hometown cooking. And I think could definitely be very live here. And then this is where it really starts to get ugly. So as we get into 7,000s, you're going to notice. So for that, I got Carlos Ortiz. Now you can see, nothing to write home about here. But driving distance and putting, 2 key areas. Is, the approach is a little shaky. But had a good outing. That number does not speak to what he actually did at Wells Fargo. So on Sunday, he just collapsed. Let's go look. I want to see what he shot. So what is he, 65th? Carlos Ortiz. So he had a 70, a 68, a 73, and then blew up with that 79. So shot 8 over. But, it was kind of in contention the first 3 days. So I'm not going to let that bother me too much. And let's just go take a little look and see what Carlos has done. So I already know, of course, right, he won the Vivid Houston Open recently. Ben's not his best surface. Says he struggles a little in the wind, but we look at Shriners. 4 times, made 2 cuts, but miscut recently. Waste Management. So he had a 4th place at the Waste Management here recently at TPC Scottsdale, so that's good. The Houston, of course, he won and had a 4th at the previous, so this is Memorial Park. This would be CC of Houston. So he likes Texas. We'll go with that narrative. Except then I go to Valero, but that was 2019. He missed a cut. Let me go a little further. So he had a 15th back in 2015, but missed cuts before that. The Safeway, average. We'll just say that. And then John Deere, missed cuts recently. And then let's go. Just see here. And so he has played in the Byron Nelson in the past. Best was a T12. That would have been at Trinity Forest. Okay. Sebastian Munoz, I think, I don't know. What I'm getting into is, of course, he's, as I mentioned, also has played at North Texas, could play here. You can see he's done pretty well. So I was just curious if he's kind of fallen out of favor, a little bit with him and Lanto for a while, were kind of the hot plays. So you can see his projected ownership right now, not too crazy. But that guy can get crazy hot. I mean, for a showdown play, I think he's awesome. I like him. That price tag, again, I always liked him below 7,000. But in this field, even though we're top heavy, but just not enough guys. If we go click on Sebastian Munoz, I believe he got his first win at Sanderson Farms. You can see here, could get it crazy, or does well on these surfaces. Bent's not his favorite. Not too concerned about that. But the Shriners hit a 27th recently. We go look at the Waste Management, a miscut and a 47th, but the miscut was recent. Houston Open, he had a 28th. That was in 2019. We look at the Valero. Recently had a 9th. The Safeway, he had a 33rd in 2019. And the John Deere, he had a 37th. So, not too bad. I like him. I think, for what I'm looking for, I think he's a good fit. Looking for a guy that can get really hot. Peter Uihlein, of course, he had that win at MGM Resorts, had a second. These are Corn Ferry Tours. But, had a 57th at Valero. And again, I'm looking at this. Just guys that can get hot with a putter, can make some birdies. We're going to need to do that. Can also drive the ball. Can take advantage of the par fives. You can see approach is a little rough, and from, which falls also on the approach from 75 to 100. I'm not going to even, I'll just show. I don't think he's played in a lot of the tournaments that we're going to want to look at. Bermuda's his best surface. Says wind can affect him. But I'll just, for shits and giggles, let's see. So he has played in the Shriners. It's been a little bit, but 63rd and a 23rd. The Waste Management, 2018 was a 52nd. The Houston Open, miscut. The Valero, a couple miscuts, but it's a while ago. What about the Safeway, miscuts? Didn't play the John Deere. But again, this is a little more of a recent form, and that he can, make the birdies. You got Antoine Rosner, who's coming over from Europe. I didn't pull anything up on him. I think he won. I think he's a French guy, right? I think he won a tournament over there. Probably been a couple months. Just so note, not bad form. But, again, trying to get some differentiation, wouldn't be bad. And it's kind of interesting that, typically when somebody doesn't know, so you could go and just kind of do your own investigation. If you go look on the European Tour, pull up his profile, you're going to be able to do everything I could have done for you there. So, if you're interested in playing Antoine, but again, I know he does have a win not too long ago. Scott Stallings, pretty decent recent results. Sorry, I was showing you past history. He had a 29th, but he's been popping up. But, probably doesn't help. I played him, I think, on Showdown Sunday, and he just kind of stunk. So I'm not a huge Scott Stallings fan. I'll just put it that way out the bat. But, again, $7,500, where, again, he was typically $6,500. I'd rather play Camilo. I've been touting this guy. The guy can get lightning hot on approach and with his putter. You can see great recent form. So for the price, I'm recommended play Camilo, over a Scott Stallings. And if we want to just go plug in and take a look at some of his info, of course, Bermuda's been his best. It says here you can handle the wind. Take a look at Shriners. So the miscut recently, but, done okay there in the past. We look at the Waste Management, miscut recently, so that doesn't really roll well. What about the Houston Open? That was in 20th, the miscut. Valero, he had a 17th recently, so that's positive. What about the Safeway? Miscut in 20, and John Deere. Been a while, but he had a 19th there with his 2017. So Doug Gim, again, wow. That's interesting that he's at projected ownership 24%. What am I missing? So he had a T12 here. People just love to play Doug Gim. I think it's kind of funny. I'm not there yet. I'll be honest with you guys. I think he's got talent. Let's go do some. I am now curious because I kind of just glossed. So a miscut in 2018, but that was a while ago. The Waste Management, he did not play in. The Houston did not play in. Valero, a 44th. Recently, Safeway, he had a 14th or a 14th finish at 2020. John Deere. Yeah, I don't know what somebody must have touted him. It wasn't me. You can look at his stats. So putting disaster. So he's ranked 148th out of 150 guys, pretty much. his, nothing really to say in his last 12 rounds from, maybe, had one good day. He's got a couple cuts. So, it's funny enough, you put him against Camilo, I mean, just from a statistical side, and also Camilo actually has won major. I mean, the guy's, is a while ago, but was an elite talent. I don't know. Who knows? I maybe Doug, I don't even remember Doug game. Maybe he's got Texas ties and I just don't know it. Didn't find him. I didn't research it. Snedeker, I think I did mention, I thought he's a Tennessee guy, of course, went to Vanderbilt. I think he was a Vandy. But he's been, this is, why I like, I haven't touted Brandt Snedeker, I don't think ever. But he's really been coming out with a putter. And he's not elite at all off the tee. It's kind of a fiasco with him. But can be pretty good, with the putting approach. He can score. And he's starting to improve. You can see what he did at Valero. Tougher track that I think. I don't have that evidence yet, but I think the TPC San Antonio is a tougher track than what they're going to be playing. Maybe that's it. Maybe, he had one T6, but how can you go off tournament history when it's 9 at the same course? So, yeah, I like Brandt. We want to go do some of his. So, Bent is one of his better, gained a half stroke over his history, can play in the wind. Can play actually in bad conditions. If it gets nutty out, used to be that Brandt Snedeker was the guy you wanted to have if the weather went south. 43rd recently, a 10th is his best at the Shriners. Waste Management. Miscut recently, but had a second, again, way back. Not that I'm trying to tout that. Houston Open, a 44th. Already look at Valero. He had a 6th recently at the Valero. I think I already brought that up. What about Safeway? Miscut recently. Had a second, a 17th a little while back. And the John Deere. Nothing. Okay. But we're going with the hot hand of Brandt Snedeker. All right, let's wrap this up. Okay, to summarize then, my top 5 picks. Again, this is from a DFS perspective. You can also, of course, bet these guys, but I will go into my favorite bets towards the end. Of course, Bryson DeChambeau. And if you haven't used them for one and done, could be a great spot. I would guess maybe you have. Also, of course, Jordan Spieth. I think this is a great place, but a lot of people save him for the John Deere. It's been successful there even when he doesn't have his full game. Of course, you got Will Z. I think he's going to want to make a bounce back statement. A Texas guy. Also, he needs a win on tour to get to the FedEx Cup playoffs with his temporary status. It's kind of crazy. Scotty Scheffler. So really, this is pretty much Team Texas I'm putting together here. And Ryan Palmer. So I told you guys from the preview show, I've learned my lesson in not playing the Texans when they're in Texas. So I am not going to fall for that again. Maybe it'll explode in my face, but it's the way I'm going. And you guys are going to have to figure out if you'd like to stick with that trend. Then my next fight, I think Brooks, this was a volatile, I think, pick at that price tag because I've just seen Brooks so many times before a major just come out and use that round or the 2 rounds as a practice, shoots like crap and doesn't make the cut. Now, has a good showing on Thursday that he's going to try to win the tournament. If he comes out and shoots mediocre, he might just come out on Friday and just practice, some stuff. So Sergio Garcia, again, Texas, somewhat Texas local guy as in the second home, but I think this course could fit him well. The guy is, I think 3rd or 4th in driving distance. Great, with the approach. So everything I like is just going to be if he can make the putts. You got killer Keith Mitchell, great recent form. You got Carlos Ortiz, North Texas guy. And of course, my other North Texas guy is Munoz. Sebastian. So yeah, that's kind of my second, and a few of those guys are Texas ties. And then for my last 5 picks, I'm going with Cameron Champ, the Texas A&M Aggie. I'm going with Luke List. Again, you're going to see some notice here is length. Hope they can make a putt. Peter Uihlein, just recent form. That's pretty much it, and the guy can get pretty hot with the putter. Of course, Brandt Snedeker, same thing, and then Camilo Villegas all kind of fall under either they're super hot or super not, and we're just going with the upside, the hope of the upside, possibility of the upside. Okay, my favorite bets.
So Sun King, I'll just bring that up right now. As I already mentioned, of course, member here, winner of this tournament, technically the defending champion. Right now he's 350 to 1, at least on DraftKings. And for a top 10, he's 33 to 1. And kind of a funny little story. I went to throw just $100 on him because for that kind of odds, I've seen the CT Pans win at 250, 300. It can happen. But you're talking a nice payday. And it was funny, DraftKings would only allow so much of that to go through, and then they had to like approve the rest, which I just thought was crazy because it's $100. Like it wasn't like I was putting $1,000 on it or something nutty. So just note to self: if you go to put a bet on him that's larger than $10 or something like that, it might take a moment before they approve it. So I would just never saw that before. 85 to 1 for outright winner, Cameron Champ. So you got the long shot, and then you got kind of the middle of the road. But I think this is a course he could win. It's a simple course, so as far as I see it, he can just bombs away, and as long as he can get a little better with those shorter approaches and make some putts, could definitely. So for 85 to 1, again, that's on DraftKings. Definitely interested there. And then 80 to 1 on Sebastian Munoz for first round leader. I like that. He's perfect example of a guy that can come out, shoot 8 or 9 under, one day, and of course then shoot even or 1 over the next. So that is my favorite bets, and that's it. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope that helps you from a betting perspective to get some of your DFS lineups together. I will put out my value show. I'll talk more about weather projection ownerships tomorrow. Anything that I glean or see out there that you might want to know. Of course, again, remember, DJ's out of the field, which you would definitely notice. You'll see the red out on his name. But if for some odd reason you put some teams in early, just make sure you get that out. And then, like this, share with anybody else that might like it. Subscribe if you've not. And, of course, tell me who's going to win the PGA Championship so you can get in my drawing that I'm going to do. Probably going to try to do it tomorrow morning. So give some people time tonight to go ahead and send me their submits. Just do it in the YouTube comments. Just tell me who you think is going to win. And also if I can help you out with anything, or just follow me on Twitter. Like I said, I don't put a ton of content out there, but if I see anything that you want to, should need to know, I will post it on Twitter, and I don't go into YouTube comments to do it. So if someone has a, early morning withdrawal like Webb did last week or, whatever, I try to stay on top of that for you guys. All right. Awesome. Let's have a great week. And thanks again for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys later.